Hey friends, welcome to the February Fragrance Awards. Once again, I am putting this out the day before the last day of the month for the same reason that it happened in January. I am super fortunate to be able to bring you yet another So Avant-Garde sale for 30% off site-wide. I'll be posting that video tomorrow morning early, and I'll be sharing with you my top spring recommendations out of the So Avant-Garde brands that are on their site. So please be sure to tune in tomorrow morning if you love So Avant-Garde or have been curious to shop them and would like to pick up some new recommendations. If you're new to the channel, I do this video every month at the end of the month to share with you many of the fragrances that I wore over the month and put them into these faux award categories that I made up just for our own entertainment. First up is Best for the Season, and I have to give it to Opera Mate from Mind Games. I did a review on this fragrance when it first came out. The thumbnail looks like this, and I will link that down below in case you're interested in checking out the full review. The reason that I put this fragrance in the Best for the Season category is because it has both a warmth and a depth that is appropriate for colder months. The notes that are called out on the placard here are roasted chestnut and suede. If you look at the perfumer's description, they also talk about like a caramel sweetness and vetiver. I can't say that I pick up vetiver, but I can tell you this definitely smells like a buttery, suedey fragrance that has roasted chestnuts. If you know the smell of roasted chestnuts in the air, add a little bit of butter and cream on top of that smell and some suediness, and you have a sense of what this fragrance smells like. There's definitely a sweetness to it, and I would say that this is a squarely unisex fragrance, but it has some feminine touches and some masculine touches with the suede and would work well on anyone so long as you like chestnut. I find that chestnut in fragrances, I talked about this with a viewer recently in the comment section, it can be really funny in some fragrances where it's overwhelming or it's too much. I feel like it's just done so beautifully in this fragrance. Warm, cozy, slight sex appeal, and definitely this sort of warm wraparound feeling. In the category of best everyday fragrance, I could have chosen a few, but I'm going to go with Molecule 01. This is sort of that classic molecular type of fragrance. So the word molecular, when people say that, it can mean different things. When it comes to these fragrances, there's a single molecule featured. I mean, all fragrances are made up of molecules of chemicals, right? So anyway, this one is primarily ISO E Super. It does have some warm tones to it, and it has a very sort of slight musky feel, but primarily it smells like really clean pencil shavings. And if you like that smell and can interpret a sort of perfumey version, pencil shaving smell, this one might be for you. Super duper clean, linear, easygoing, but also has this warmth to it, closer to the skin, inoffensive. It can be worn in an office environment. You'll have no issues wearing this in crowded elevators and so forth. Best every day. Great t-shirt and jeans. There isn't a top to this. This is how the fragrances look. They just have the atomizer on the top. So in the special occasion category is a fragrance you'll hear me talk about again. There is something very special about this fragrance and also something very easygoing about it. From Plume Impression, this is called Art Nouveau. So I have really enjoyed sampling fragrances from this house, and I have liked the majority that I have tried, including this one. My husband especially went crazy for this one when I tried it recently on a full day wear. I would describe this fragrance as primarily clean but luxurious floral smell with a very subtle sweetness to it. There are some fruit notes in it as well as florals, and there's amber in the base, and I believe patchouli, if I'm not mistaken, and perhaps some woodiness. So it has a substantial base, but what hovers above that sort of ambery base is this super elegant composition of bright, sophisticated, clean smelling white florals. Not soapy, just clean. There's a sort of freshness and vibrancy and lightness to this fragrance, although it also at the same time has a lot of depth and substance that would make it a real stunner for a special occasion. The fruitiness in the fragrance is just very slight and adds this subtle sweetness that I think makes this an absolute highly feminine stunner. It has a level of maturity in it because of the combination of notes and the fact that there's amber in the base. And yet, I think this is an incredibly crowd-pleasing fragrance. Great projection, great longevity, great sillage. I could smell this all throughout the day. So you'll hear this recommendation in tomorrow's video for So Avant-Garde. In the category of sexiest, I mentioned this in the recent Top 100 video series that I posted. AMARIGE from Givenchy. This is the kitchen sink of floral notes, and I believe there's amber and woods in the fragrance as well. It has this robust, round nature to it, highly mature, incredibly grown woman feminine. This is one of the most beautiful white florals I've ever smelled with a ton of base to it. This plays well in the winter and in colder weather, and if you spray lightly, it can go definitely into spring and summer. There's such a depth of warmth to this fragrance, as well as the sophistication from the florals. It's like a golden floral fragrance that can be overpowering for some people. If you haven't tried this and you like big, bold floral fragrances, You might want to give this one a shot. AMARIGE, super duper sexy, alluring, brings all the boys to the yard kind of fragrance. Here you go. We got to talk about this next one. This is the biggest surprise, and I want to explain why. So, this was sent to me by Twisted Lily for review. It's from Fugazzi, and it's called Vanilla Haze. They sent over the entire full bottle. Yay. Thank you so much, Twisted Lily. When I smelled this, I immediately had a flashback to a fragrance I had smelled before. We have met. We are acquainted. I know you. I know you from a past scent. And I racked my brain to think about what it was. And it occurred to me what it was. And I'm going to share it with you. But I first want to say if you go to Fragrantica and look at the Reminds Me of section, most people voted that this reminds them of Bianco Latte. Perhaps I had a completely different experience with Bianco Latte because while there are similarities, that's not what this reminded me of. What it did remind me of immediately is creme brulee from Theodoros Kalatinis, and peripherally reminded me of, is that even the right word? Maybe not. Let me choose another word. It kind of sort of reminded me of Hufflepuff from House of Sillage. However, this one, creme brulee, immediately came to mind. They are so similar that I had to sniff them side by side. So, since I know that people think this smells like Bianco Latte, if you take some of the airy aspect of Bianco Latte, you know how it sprays on and it's almost like it has like this cloud-like texture to it? That's the part of Bianco Latte. If you mix it with this, the scent in here, I think is more close to Fugazzi. So I do want to read you some of the notes. In the top, mandarin. I don't think I get anything very citrusy in this. Coconut milk, yes. Almond, yes. Hazelnut, absolutely. In the heart, vanilla pod, tonka bean, jasmine. In the base, creme brulee is a note, white amber, and sweet musk. Here's what I have to say. For those of you that thought that creme brulee was maybe too thick, too cloying, too overwhelming, but you wish that it wasn't so you could like it more, you really need to give Vanilla Haze a try. I feel like this is almost like a refined version of creme brulee. I'm sorry, creme brulee. I didn't mean to betray you that way, but I got to be honest with the folks. This one, scent-wise, beats this one in terms of being more wearable, more sophisticated, whereas this one can be perceived as, like sickly sweet gourmand, which it is. And sometimes I'm in the mood for that, and it's fantastic. It's like a thick, almost like coconut creme brulee, vanilla, nutty, something or other dream, right? This one, it's almost like, you know how like on the Kayali labels, it'll say Kayali, super long name, super long name, super long name, and a number. And the number represents the number of times, iterations of the formula that it took to land on that one that they wanted to push out to market. It's almost like creme brulee went through several iterations and they came out with this more refined fragrance at the end. I think this is a beautiful, yes, gourmand, but also perfumey gourmand for those of us that don't want to smell literally like a dessert. This is so beautiful. It's got this sort of powderiness to it, this creaminess, very vanilla in nature. If I didn't know any better, oh, it does have coconut milk. I was going to tell you, I say I smell coconut, but it has coconut milk in it. And it's a fun wear. When you spray this on, you're like, oh, dang, I smell sweet and beautiful. So this is a winner. I will say I'm not sure if I'm going to keep creme brulee since I have this one now, Vanilla Haze, because I prefer this one slightly. This one is still beautiful too, creme brulee. All right, I will still sing your praises. We can still be friends, but I think a new best friend is in town. Sadly, at the time that I'm filming this, this is sold out on Twisted Lily. By the way, I always forget to say all of the fragrances will be linked down below in the description box if I can find links to them. Some of these, I'm looking around, are any of these sold out? Yes, one of them is sold out and I can't find it anywhere. But if I can get you links to these, I will. At Twisted Lily, if you want to shop for this when it comes back in stock, or you want to buy a sample to try it out. Are the samples even in stock? Give me a second. No, y'all done sold Twisted Lily out of all of their Vanilla Haze of any size. I'll try to find it for you, or if I can't find it anywhere else, I'll leave you the Twisted Lily link below so that you can check this out when it comes back in stock. Gourmand lovers who don't want to smell totally edible, you definitely want to check out Fugazzi. Biggest surprise. My favorite blind buy of the fragrances that I wore in February, I didn't purchase it in February, but it was a blind buy. If you have not tried the Harmonist YIN Transformation, you must, is all I will say. This is the Parfum version. There's also I think an Eau de Parfum version. I haven't tried that. I blind bought the Parfum version based on reviews, and people seem to love this. Some people hate on it, and then there's just people that just, it doesn't matter how beautiful the fragrance is, they find something to hate about it. So haters be damned. Let me tell you about YIN Transformation. This fragrance is like the freshness that you feel from the spray of a waterfall, a slightly floral soap like bath soap or bath gel, the cleanest, thinnest version of musk imaginable, and something like sweet but in a very fresh way. Refreshing, fresh, uplifting, sheer, yet opaque at the same time. How's that for abstract? And no one knows what the hell I'm talking about now in terms of the smell. But imagine that fresh waterfall sort of mist combined with fresh florals and something soapy clean. Smells like this elevated sense of peace and relaxation. And you also smell pretty and beautiful at the same time. I think this would smell wonderful on gentlemen too. So I don't say the word pretty to mean that it's only for, like a very feminine fragrance. Like AMARIGE, I think smells great on gentlemen too, but it really is a very, very feminine fragrance. This one is feminine, but could also be considered just freshly unisex, especially for a gentleman that isn't scared to wear florals. Absolutely beautiful. I can't speak to the eau de parfum version. I can only speak to this one, and I adore. You may remember that I did an entire dedicated review on the brand called New Notes if you've been around for a while. The thumbnail for this video looks like this. I will link that below as well in case you're curious to hear my thoughts on the whole line. I think Akigala, Mandarino, and Bonbons a la Violette had not been released at the time that I did that video. So those I have other thoughts on. So one of the fragrances that I talked about in that video that I actually went ahead and did an absolute full day wear. When I did that video, I had tested it and worn the fragrances for parts of days, and some of them I had worn whole days. Well, I finally did a full-on dedicated, you're the only one wear on Erotica Minimale. So I'm putting this in the not a safe blind buy fragrance because this fragrance is for those among you who appreciate a very animalic, skanky dirty smell. And you like it. You like how like BO smells on some people. This doesn't smell like BO, but it has a very pungent smell. When I wore this, my husband was like, "Ooh, I don't know that I like that on you." It has this sort of like ripe body smell, if you know what I'm saying. Look, if you have tried Agent Provocateur, well, that's the name of the fragrance. The brand is Agent Provocateur that makes lingerie, and they have the egg fragrances, the pink egg that is named Agent Provocateur. That's the closest to this one, except this one is even skankier, more animalic than Agent Provocateur. I actually happen to like this fragrance, but considering my husband's reaction, I'm gonna have to be careful when and how I wear this, and you have to be in the mood. This has more powder than Agent Provocateur, if you know that fragrance, but it definitely has the rose, patchouli, there's vanilla. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what this smells like. For those of you that have tried Inicio's Absolute Aphrodisiac, you know how that has a little bit of an animalic touch to it, like just a shadow touch? If you marry that fragrance, Absolute Aphrodisiac, with Agent Provocateur, if you have tried that, or maybe even like a portrait of a lady that has a really extreme rose smell, add a little bit of skank, and you got this fragrance here. I quite like it. Powder, rose, ripe, but attractive BO smell. If you're newer to my channel, I apologize because I'm probably turning you off. This vanilla, it has some soft round edges to it too. Give it a try if you like the kinds of fragrances that you would wear late at night. You know what I mean? I have this next fragrance in the overhyped category and I'm questioning myself. So this brand is also on So Avant-Garde. I will not feature it tomorrow, I don't think. I might make a mention of it because the fragrances are particular and you have to be into them. I do like this fragrance, but I think it was overhyped, and that is YLANG in Gold. I happen to have the Nectar version. I do think it is a nice fragrance, but people went bananas. No pun intended, because there's ylang, and ylang can sometimes have this banana-esque smell. So symbol crash. 10 points for me for combining those two things together. So if you have smelled Chopard Cashmere, which was out back in the day, right? That's an older fragrance than this. It's got a very similar smell. I'm not going to look up the notes, but I can tell you that this has like a musky, ylang banana-esque type of smell. There's something very cool and casual in the fragrance, something along the lines of like a violet note or similar. It has a very, very subtle perfumey sweetness way in the background and a sort of musky base. A lot of people pick up something in the coconut realm. This is the Nectar version. So the difference between this and Ylang in Gold is that this is like slightly thicker, I would say. The consistency is a little denser and it's less projecting maybe than the original Ylang in Gold. The bottles on this one are really pretty. I haven't always loved all of the Micallef bottles rather, but the fact that it has this white and nice gold leafing, like genuine gold leafing on there with the name on the side, that is attractive. I don't absolutely love these caps. It feels a little bit like Stonehenge prehistoric to me. Be that as it may, I do think the fragrance is lovely, but I feel like it was elevated to the gods when it first came out. I'm not sure why, and I still like it and I would still recommend it. and it will be in the sale tomorrow if you've been interested in this brand or this fragrance in particular. So a hidden gem fragrance, and this one isn't going to be for everyone. This fragrance is for those of you that actually enjoy initio side effect and fragrances of that sort because it smells a lot like that. This is from, and I always struggle with the name of the house. I want to say Alghabra. I think it's just Alghabra. So it's called Eye of Seven Hills. And I believe Eye of Seven Hills, please remind me, I think it is a region in Turkey. Hold on, I might have to look it up. Why, yes, it's a historic section or location in Istanbul. Oh my God, it's just 10 tons of beautiful. I would say that many of you ladies would consider this to be a bit of a masculine fragrance. So if that is not your thing, if you like to stay on the feminine side, you will not enjoy this. For those of you that have a little bit more adventurous taste and you don't mind going into masculine territory, absolutely stunning fragrance. It has tremendous projection, sillage, beautiful fill of the room. It has both this like airy, almost like saffron nature. I don't know if saffron is a note in the fragrance, but like a saffron nature where it feels almost like this light, airy leatheriness alongside just some other beautiful, mysterious notes. I feel like there's some spices in here, some musk. It reminds me very much of like Side Effect meets maybe some parts of Oud for Greatness and like the airiness of BR 540. And it's gorgeous and long lasting. You know what? I think I discovered this scent and this brand browsing around ScentSplit. So I want to pause to say that I have an affiliate code with ScentSplit Veronica 10. And I also want to say that our friend Chelsea at Perfumes on the Porch, here's her channel. She also has a ScentSplit code, Chelsea 10. So I hope you will use somebody's code as you explore ScentSplit and get your decants and whatever. ScentSplit is where I shop the most. I spend, if I told y'all the amount of money, it's in the thousands that I've spent just on samples on ScentSplit. But anyway, I found this fragrance on there. And by the way, tried out many from the house. I like a lot of them, and some just weren't for me, as with any brand, right? Worth hunting down is one of my absolute beauties. This is in the core group of fragrances. If you watched my top 10 fragrances video last December, I talked about having a core group of fragrances that are like timeless, that I will always love, and this is among them. And this is Narciso, the White Cube, the original White Cube that kicked off the Cube madness. So the cubes had a moment here on YouTube a few years ago. People don't really talk about them quite as much these days. This is one of the most feminine, most intoxicating fragrances. I mean, like I want to pass out from the beauty of this fragrance when I smell it. However, if you are musk averse, you better run from this fragrance because it is musk heavy. I talk about this like being a thundercloud of musk, very heavy musk. And it's a beautiful musk. It's infused with this like woody cedar note. There is a little bit of rose in the middle to give it another sort of feminine dimension to it. And one of the primary floral players is gardenia. Gardenia, a little rose, a little cedar woodiness, and a ton of musk. And it is a stunner. A stunner. This is class, sophistication, and sexiness all rolled into one. When this walks in the room, people notice. It is discontinued and nearly impossible to find. Every time I search for this, I cannot find it. It's out of stock everywhere. So if you know a place to find this, please drop it in the comments. Of course, you can always look on Mercari and eBay and take your chances that way. And if I find it, I will link it for you. Category of best bottle. I absolutely had to give it up to the Tumi fragrances. This one is Utopia, and I'll tell you about this particular fragrance in just a second. This reminds me very much of the Balenciaga Paris bottles. What a beautiful bottle. I've since sold that on Mercari. Gorgeous scent, gorgeous bottle. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful bottles and caps I have ever laid my eyes on. And this one comes the closest in terms of having that sort of cathedral architecture at the top. These lines all look like buttresses, which is an architectural feature of cathedrals. Those are like the sort of veins that go up to the top and hold the ceiling of a cathedral. And there's 4 fragrances in the women's Tumi line, and they all have a slightly different cap color, and I think a slightly different bottle hint of color too. Or maybe it's just a fluid and yeah, maybe I'm lying. It looks like the bottle is clear, but the fluid has a slight tint to it, like a tinge of color. This one is called Utopia, and I wanted to share a few of the notes so I didn't forget. It's mostly a very soft, feminine, cozy, inviting vanilla fragrance with a touch of like powderiness. So this has an apple note. There is this sort of very fresh, subtle apple note here in the mid, peony, jasmine, salted tonka. It doesn't smell any bit of salty to me. My God, this is so pretty. In fact, this could be like the more toasty cousin to the vanilla haze. This one is more gourmandy. This one is a stripped back vanilla, very subtly gourmand fragrance with a little bit of powder to it. There's sandalwood and vanilla in the base. So I'm a homebody. I love being in my house. I work from home, but I took my son to a dental appointment. And when I walked up to the counter, I hadn't even made it to the counter yet. So this is what I'm getting at. I thought that this fragrance was light. I have told you all that this fragrance doesn't project much. I lied, apparently. So if you are trying fragrances out in the comfort of your home and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this doesn't project, go outside and ask someone else their thoughts because we do not have a good perception of how far a fragrance travels once we spray it on ourselves. It's like we can't see a clear picture of how the fragrance behaves. We have to ask other people. The point I'm making is before I even got to the counter, the woman behind the counter, I need your opinion on something. She said to me, my gosh, you smell good. What is that? Of course, the usual questions. So I told her reluctantly, it's Utopia, by the luggage company, Tumi, that you sometimes see at the mall or the airport. And she goes, oh, I know it well. I'm a fragrance enthusiast and I collect. And I said, oh, isn't that nice? And I scurried over to my little chair. If you don't know this about me, I am incredibly shy in public, extremely introverted. I will talk to people, but I have to act like I'm extroverted to talk to people. The point I'm getting at is she told me she's a fragrance enthusiast. I feel like I missed an opportunity to say, hey, so am I. Why don't you join the channel community or consider it? It feels like that's almost like inappropriate. Wanted to get your thoughts. If you ask someone in public what fragrance they wore, they told you, oh, I have this on. Do you like fragrances? I have a channel. Check me out. Would that turn you off? Would that feel like self promoting or something? Just curious your thoughts because I felt really awkward and I didn't say a word to the woman. This is the second time, by the way, that she has complimented me on my scent. In the category of worst bottle, so here's the thing. I actually liked these bottles when I first got these fragrances. I have three from this house. The brand is called Omnia Profumi and it's MADERA. It really doesn't matter which one because the point is about the bottle. This fragrance, by the way, also smells like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. This also smells like vanilla haze. Oh my gosh, I have like 3 or 4 fragrances that smell alike. These are super similar, and I prefer this one. I think it's a little bit more sophisticated and refined. This has a lot of vanilla and caramel and a little bit of muskiness to it. So good. Anyway, the fragrance, this actually smells a little bit like Bianco Latte in terms of like that airy, like air infused into the fragrance. So the bottle, I like these apple shaped bottles. They're heavy. The cap is okay. I'm not super in love with the proportion of the cap, but the part that bothers me is that these labels, they start to come apart from the sides after a while. I'm not going to pull it up. That's it. That's it. I actually like the bottle itself, but that part bothers me. So there you go. In the low category is a fragrance that I really enjoyed when I bought it. I wore it a number of times. And when I wore it recently, this is Stefan Humbert Lucas. What is it called? Soleil de JEDDAH Mango Kiss. I've since sold it to a gentleman on Mercari. I hope he loves it. I thought it was a beautiful fragrance when I wore it. And I was picking up this sort of subtle smoky nuance that I actually have experienced in a number of Stefan Humbert Lucas fragrances. And I didn't want to smell smoky. That's all. I don't have anything against smoky scents. I don't have anything against this fragrance. I still think it is a gorgeous, like a perfume interpretation of a mango scent. Look, I have tried a lot of mango fragrances. Some of them are way too photorealistic. Some are more like green mangoes and they're too pungent. This was actually a very luxurious mango perfumey scent. And it had like these leathery tones to it that were very attractive to me. But there was something about the smoky accord that I hadn't picked up on ever before. But I felt it a little bit stronger when I wore it this time. I was like, oh, the same thing happened to me with the original Soleil de JEDDAH, which is a gorgeous citrus, leathery, has some powdery nuances too, dark, smoky fragrance. It had a smokiness to it, like a charred smell that became bothersome after a while, even though the fragrance is absolutely beautiful. Both of these are beautiful. Anyway, so that one sold to someone else, and I hate that it's in the low category, but that's what it ended up being. And sometimes when you try something, you can come back to it a number of months later or a year later, and it smells completely different to you. Sometimes because the fragrance itself has evolved as it's exposed to more and more oxygen as you start to use it more and more, right? The surface area, more of the surface area is exposed to oxygen. And sometimes just your taste change or your tolerance for certain accords changes over time. So that's in the low category. In the middle category is a fragrance that I am getting to know, and that's why it's in the middle category. And I feel this way about a lot of the fragrances from this house. They are gorgeous in their own way. They smell luxurious, and you need to take some time to get to know them. This is from Widian, and this is called DELMA. Very pretty. In fact, I don't want you to be misled because it's in the medium category or the middle category. Maybe it could have been at the top too, but I feel like I'm still getting acquainted with the depth of this fragrance, which is why it's in the middle, and that's the only reason why. As with most of the Widian fragrances that I have and have tried, this sprays on really strong, and you're like, whoa, what am I smelling for the first few seconds? And then this semi glorious interpretation of a combination of subtle fruitiness and florals comes through with just the softest hint of spice, like a soft cinnamony spice. It's so pleasant. It reminds me of a faraway land. Like if the Disney Princess Jasmine had a smell, I think it would be Delma. She would smell like this. It's like a fruity floral with a slightly exotic faraway land twist that I can't really describe. There's a whole like cacophony of notes that I won't even share because it doesn't make sense to. It's not going to give you an idea of what this smells like. But the fragrance has this absolute smoothness to it. It has some traditional base notes like vanilla, I believe patchouli and amber, and some other heavier base notes, some woodiness. And it is beautiful. I'm getting to know it. There's some mystery to this. There's some layers to this. You know those movies of like the hard to get woman that the man is chasing? She's beautiful, but she's a little reserved and a little mysterious, and he gets to know a little bit more about her on every date. I feel like this is that woman. Very, very pretty. So anyway, let me pause and just say definitely get a sample of this. If you love fruity florals and you're ready for like a new interpretation of that, you may enjoy Delma. That brings us to the category of the top fragrances for the month. I have 5 for you. Let's start off with another one. Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2 of these I featured in my top 100 in the recent videos. One was Good Girl Blush. What a pretty, daily, easygoing, crowd-pleasing scent. Husband loves this on me as well. There's mandarin at the top, a rose peony, very, very girly combination in the middle, and this sort of like vanillic musk in the base. I don't even know if that's what's in the base, but that's what comes across to me. And it's just pretty. It smells on you how the color looks with a little added tart zestiness from the mandarin at the top that gives it just this like bright effervescence. I think this is one of the prettiest scents in the Good Girl line, and I really enjoy reaching for this, and I like the bottle. So this is the 1.7 ounce, I believe. And it's one that I would seriously consider re-upping on when I run out of this. Pretty, and I absolutely adore the color of the bottle. In fact, it matches my nail color, my OPI nail color today. Then from Tiziano Terenzi is a fragrance that I describe as smelling like hypnotic poison from Dior on steroids. This is Lince, and the fragrance is this like mesmerizing combination of powderiness, soft musk, and this almond accord. The almond accord in here is very, very similar to me to the one that's in Hypnotic Poison. I have had people disagree in the comments. If you disagree, that is fine. I'm sharing with you that that is my interpretation of what I'm smelling. I believe there's also a pretty heavy dose of vanilla in the fragrance too. So think an almond accord, vanilla, and powdery musk. Super projecting, nicely long lasting, a little suffocating if you spray too much, in the same sense that that white Narciso cube can be too much. Like the musk can be a little overpowering. So keep it light, very feminine, very pretty, lovely. Then Black Opium Le Parfum once again did not disappoint. If you haven't tried this and you are a vanilla lover, you must. It is like a thick, luscious, almost syrupy, deep vanilla fragrance. It does have tones to it that remind me of like old amber fragrances. So vanilla and amber are related in that most amber accords have a strong vanilla in it. Like the accord of amber is made up of different notes, right? And often it will have vanilla. So in that sense, that is not a far-fetched thing to associate this with, like deep amber fragrances. The vanilla is so beautiful in here, very highly feminine. It's like a sticky, thicky. I was going to say sticky, thicky. What the hell is that? Sticky, thick vanilla that when you put it on makes you feel super duper sexy and feminine. Gorgeous fragrance. If you haven't tried it, give it a sniff. Then another Mind Games fragrance, and this one has grown on me more than when I first tried it. When I first tried Prodigy, I think I paired it with another fragrance. That thumbnail looks like this when I did the review of those. And I said that I liked Prodigy, but it wasn't my favorite of the two. Well, listen to me. I have since worn this a number of times and have fallen more in love with it every time I've tried it. The main notes, as it says here, rose, absolute, and patchouli. There is something in this fragrance that has a slight gourmand touch that I think makes this, okay? Makes this. So yes, it's a beautiful, soft rose. I don't find the rose in this fragrance to be as obnoxious as like Erotica Minimal, that one. This is a very, you smell the rose, it's a strong rose, but it also has this sort of subtlety to the tone of the rose, if that makes sense. Okay. Some roses can be really sharp, some can be really fresh. This one feels like it's like a velvety rose that's here, as well as some kind of gourmand tone. I think the perfumer intended this to smell a little bit like a latte, If I didn't know that, I wouldn't say that this smelled like a latte, but since I know that, I can tell you that this has some of those sort of soft, almost like milky, like the way that frothed milk smells. There you go. When you steam milk to make froth, to put it on top of your coffee drink, the smell from that, you smell a little bit of that in here. The patchouli here is just beautiful. It's soft, it's subtle, it's a background player. This has a very sort of ethereal smell to it, but it also has this denseness at the same time. The smell is a lot like the bottle looks. I don't think that's intended, but you see how it's thicker and opaque up here, and then it has this ombre effect where it's lighter and wispier here. You get the same kind of experience in this fragrance. Very feminine, very beautiful, nicely projecting, nicely long lasting. Husband loved this on me. He thought it was super sophisticated, and I have to agree. I'm gonna end out with an old favorite that was also in my top 100 video, and I need to go ahead and re-up on this bottle because I'm almost done with this. This is Tom Ford's Métallique, which is one of the most unique fragrances in my collection. It's so nice. It's like this clean, soapy, metal shaving, lovely, clean vanilla, clean twice there, sorry, along with a little bit of powderiness. And it has this intoxicating nature. This could be easily t-shirt and jeans or black tie affair. It's a versatile fragrance that I think just smells fantastic in the air and people like on you when you wear it. Really fantastic. And I think it's discontinued. And that breaks my heart because it is a beautiful, beautiful fragrance and super unique. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to smell like everyone else, you definitely need to try out Métallique. So friends, that brings us to the end of the February Fragrance Awards. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts down below. I hope you will tune in to the So Avant-Garde sale recommendations tomorrow morning. If you choose to shop that sale, I thank you in advance. And if you just tune in to listen to the recommendations and don't shop the sale, that's totally fine too. I appreciate your company on the video. See you tomorrow morning, hopefully. Take care.